She lived surrounded by luxury, with a life that seemed perfect to everyone's eyes. But one encounter in traffic with a street boy was enough to tear her soul to pieces. In that instant, a secret she had kept for almost a decade came to the surface, and the truth that emerged had the power to destroy everything she had built. The midday sun in Karachi reflected off the windshield of the black Mercedes, creating golden reflections that danced across Mahira's face. Her hands, adorned with expensive rings, gripped the steering wheel firmly but trembled imperceptibly. At the traffic light ahead, a crowd of street vendors spread between the cars. Men selling newspapers, women with flower baskets, and children, always the children. Mahira adjusted the air conditioning and sighed. At 32, she had everything a woman could desire: a loving and successful husband, a luxurious house in the city's most exclusive neighborhood, designer clothes, gleaming jewelry, and the respect of all society. Her life was the envy of many women, but there was something in her eyes, a deep shadow, an invisible weight that all the gold in the world couldn't relieve. When the light turned red, she saw a thin boy, about 10 years old, approaching with colorful balloons in his hands. Disheveled hair, dirty clothes, but a smile that radiated purity. For a split second, something inside Mahira's chest contracted violently, as if an invisible hand squeezed her heart. The boy tapped lightly on the window. "Balloons, sister! Only 5 rupees!" Mahira observed him for long seconds. There was something in those brown eyes, in that shy smile, that awakened a familiar pain, a pain she had buried 8 years ago, on the most difficult day of her life. "Sister," the boy insisted, tilting his head curiously. She rolled down the window, her hands now trembling more evidently. "How old are you?" 10 years old, sister." 10 years. Mahira swallowed hard. If she had stayed with... No, she couldn't think about that. Not now, not ever. "What's your name?" "Ayan, sister." The name echoed in her mind like distant thunder. Ayan, the name she had whispered so many times in dreams, in nightmares, in moments of solitude when no one was watching. The light turned green, and the cars behind began honking impatiently. Mahira bought 3 balloons, much more than she needed, and handed a 50-rupee note to the boy. "Sister, it's too much. I don't have change." "Keep the change," she murmured, accelerating quickly. Through the rearview mirror, she saw Ayan waving enthusiastically, holding the note as if it were a treasure. A tear rolled down Mahira's face, smearing her perfect makeup. What seemed like a casual encounter in traffic would soon become the greatest nightmare of her life, because that boy held a truth capable of destroying everything she had built. To understand Mahira's story, we need to go back in time and discover who she really was behind the perfect facade. Mahira Salman was known in all of Karachi's social circles. Married to Salman Ahmed, a prosperous textile businessman, she frequented the most exclusive clubs, organized charity dinners, and her photos regularly appeared in local newspapers' society pages. She was the ideal wife, elegant, educated, always smiling beside her husband at important events. When she went shopping at the most expensive malls, salespeople greeted her by name. When she went to the beauty salon, she had appointments with the best professionals. Her house, a 3-story mansion with garden and pool, was a spectacle of imported marble, crystal chandeliers, and European furniture. Everyone believed she had the life of dreams, but if they could see through her bedroom walls in the silent early hours, they would discover a woman who cried in silence, hugging an empty pillow. If they could read her thoughts during elegant parties, they would know she smiled on the outside while falling apart inside. There was a secret buried in Mahira's past, a secret so deep and painful that she had built an entirely new identity to escape it, a secret that haunted her with every child she saw on the street, every infantile laugh she heard, every sleepless night when memories returned like ghosts. Before continuing with this story, write in the comments where you're watching from. I want to know which countries these stories are reaching. And tell me, have you ever had to hide a secret that hurt as much as it seemed to protect you? Mahira's secret began 8 years earlier, when she was another person, with another name, another life. But that you'll discover soon. For now, follow what happened in the days after the first encounter with Ayan. The following week, Mahira found herself taking the same route to downtown, even though she had no real reason to pass by that specific traffic light. She told herself it was coincidence. She said she was just going to the boutique on the main avenue, but deep down she knew she was looking for him. When the light turned red and she saw Ayan running between cars with his paper flowers, Mahira's heart raced. Today he was different, more dressed up with a less torn t-shirt. Had he used the extra money to buy new clothes? "Sister!" Ayan recognized her immediately, his face lighting up. "You came back. Flowers today?" Mahira asked, rolling down the window. "Yes, sister, I make them from paper. Look how beautiful." He showed red and yellow roses, carefully molded. For a 10-year-old boy, the work was impressively delicate. "Did you make them alone?" "My nanny grandmother taught me. She says I have artist hands, just like—" He stopped mid-sentence, as if he had said something he shouldn't. "Just like who?" Ayan lowered his eyes. "Nothing, sister." "Want to buy flowers?" Mahira bought a dozen paper roses, much more than anyone would buy from a street vendor. While Ayan carefully wrapped the flowers in newspaper, she observed his movements. There was something familiar in how he frowned when concentrated, in the way he bit his lower lip when thinking. "Ayan, where do you live?" "In the slum on the other side of the city, sister. But it's not so bad. My nanny takes good care of me." "And your parents?" The boy was quiet for a moment too long. "My nanny says my mother left when I was very small. She said she was very beautiful and very sad, that she had to choose between me and a better life." Each word was like a stab to Mahira's chest. She gripped the steering wheel so tightly that her knuckles turned white. "And your father?" "He died before I was born. My nanny says he was a good man, but destiny didn't want me to know him." The light turned green, but Mahira couldn't move. Cars honked behind her, but she was paralyzed, looking at that boy who spoke of maternal abandonment with a naturalness that broke her heart. "Sister, the light," Ayan pointed gently. "Sorry," she accelerated, but before leaving asked, "Ayan, are you happy?" The boy smiled, and in that smile there was a maturity that shouldn't exist in a 10-year-old child. "My nanny says happiness isn't having lots of money, sister. It's having people who love us, and I have her." Mahira drove home on autopilot, the boy's words echoing in her mind. When she reached the mansion, she locked herself in her room and cried until she had no more tears. There was something in that encounter, in those words, that awakened an inexplicable pain, a pain she had sworn never to feel again. But what she didn't know yet was that this was just the beginning. Destiny had placed Ayan in her path, and there would be no turning back. The following weeks turned into a routine that Mahira couldn't explain even to herself. Every Tuesday and Thursday, she invented excuses to pass by the same traffic light. Sometimes she told her husband she was going to the dentist, other times that she had scheduled a spa massage. Small lies that accumulated like grains of sand, forming a mountain of guilt. Ayan was always there, sometimes selling balloons, other times colored pens, or small plastic toys he fixed and resold. Always with that smile that illuminated even Karachi's grayest days. "Sister, do you work around here?" Ayan asked one afternoon, after she bought an entire set of pens she would never use. "Not exactly. I just like this route." "You're very kind, sister. Most people don't even look at us." Mahira observed how other people in traffic really completely ignored the child vendors. Some even closed their windows with disgusted faces when they approached. But for her, seeing Ayan had become the most important part of the day. "Ayan, do you go to school?" "Not always, sister. Sometimes yes, when my nanny gets money for books. But I can read and write. She taught me." "And what do you like to do when you're not working?" The boy's eyes sparkled. "I like to draw, sister. I draw flowers, beautiful houses, cars like yours. I want to be an artist when I grow up." Artist. The word echoed in Mahira's mind like a distant bell. There was someone in her life long ago who also dreamed of being an artist. "Can I see your drawings someday?" "Of course, sister. I'll bring them next time." And he did. The following Thursday, Ayan had an improvised folder made of cardboard, full of drawings made on recycled papers. They were incredible for a boy his age. Detailed flowers, portraits of people, city landscapes. But one drawing in particular made Mahira's heart stop. It was the face of a young woman, crying. The drawing was simple, but there was devastating emotion in those lines. The woman had long hair and sad eyes, very sad. "Who is she, Ayan?" The boy became serious. "My nanny says it's my mother. I dream about her sometimes. Always crying, always sad. My nanny says she didn't want to leave me, that someone forced her." Mahira held the drawing with trembling hands. The woman in the paper could be anyone, but there was something in the drawn eyes, in the curve of the lips, that made her look in the mirror of memory. "Do you remember her?" "Not much, sister. Just strange feelings sometimes, Like she's nearby, but I can't touch her. Ayan paused. Do you have children, sister? The question was like a punch to the stomach. Mahira took time to answer, and when she did, her voice came out hoarse. No, I don't have children. It was lie and truth at the same time. Technically, she had no children. Legally, juridically, socially, she wasn't anyone's mother. But biologically, genetically, deep in her soul, there was a boy she had carried for 9 months, who had been born from her womb, who had nursed at her breast for 6 months before everything collapsed. You would be a very good mother, sister. You have kind eyes, just like in my dreams. That night, Mahira went home and went straight to her closet. In the back, behind expensive shoeboxes, there was a small metal box she hadn't opened in years. With trembling hands, she took out the only photo she had kept, a 6-month-old baby, chubby and smiling in her arms. The baby had the same brown eyes as Ayan, the same face shape, the same mischievous smile. But that was impossible. It was just her imagination playing tricks. Karachi had millions of poor children. The resemblance was coincidence. It had to be coincidence. She quickly put the photo away and promised herself she would stop going to that traffic light. It was just a sick obsession, a way for her subconscious to torture her with what she had lost. But the following Tuesday, there she was again, waiting for the light to turn red, looking for Ayan among the crowd of vendors. Except this time he wasn't there. Mahira waited 15 minutes in traffic, letting other cars pass, desperately searching for Ayan among the street vendors. There were balloon sellers, florists too, but no sign of the brown-eyed boy with the mischievous smile who had become the secret reason for her mornings. "Excuse me," she called to a girl about 12 years old selling water. "Do you know a boy named Ayan? He's always here selling things." The girl approached cautiously. "Ayan, brother? He hasn't come today or yesterday." Mahira's heart raced. "Why? What happened?" "I don't know, sister. I just know the police came to the slum where he lives. They say there was an accident." Accident. The word echoed in Mahira's mind like a cry of despair. Without thinking twice, she parked the car on the shoulder, something she would never do under normal circumstances, and ran to where there were more street vendors. "Please, does anyone know what happened to Ayan?" she asked a group of boys. They looked at her with suspicion. It was rare to see a rich woman dressed in expensive clothes asking about street children. But there was something in Mahira's voice, a genuine desperation that made them respond. "Sister, he was hit by a car the night before last," said an older boy. "He was running after a ball that fell in the street." Mahira felt the world spin around her. "Where is he now?" "At the public hospital, sister, but—" The boy hesitated. "But what?" "They say he's very bad, that he might not wake up." Mahira's legs failed. She leaned against the car, breathing with difficulty. One of the boys brought her water, worried about her sudden pallor. "Sister, did you know Ayan, brother?" She didn't know how to answer, how to explain that a street vendor boy had become so important to her, how to say that their casual encounters were actually the most anticipated moment of her days, how to admit that there was something in him that awakened a maternal pain she had tried to bury 8 years ago. "Where is his slum?" she finally asked. The boys looked at each other. "Sister, it's very far, and it's no place for a lady like you. Take me there, please." "But sister, I'll pay whatever you want. Just take me to his family." The desperation in her voice was so evident that the boys couldn't refuse. One of them, named Hassan, agreed to show the way in exchange for 100 rupees. Mahira drove following Hassan's motorcycle through streets she had never seen, neighborhoods she didn't know existed in her own city. As they moved away from downtown, the houses became smaller, the streets narrower, poverty more evident. When they reached the slum, Mahira was shocked. It was a labyrinth of shacks built with metal sheets, old wood, and canvas. Barefoot children ran between muddy alleys. The smell of sewage mixed with cooking smoke made her cover her nose. "There, sister," Hassan pointed to a shack slightly larger than the others. "That's Ayan's nanny's house." Mahira parked the Mercedes, which looked like a spaceship in that environment, and nervously walked to the door. Her hands trembled when she knocked lightly on the wood. A tired voice answered from inside. "Who is it?" I'm a friend of Ayan's." The door opened, revealing a woman about 60 years old, graying hair covered by a simple veil, eyes red from crying. When she saw Mahira, her expression completely changed. It wasn't surprise. It wasn't curiosity. It was recognition. "You," she whispered, her voice choked. You came back?" Mahira frowned, confused. Sorry, do we know each other? The older woman studied her for long seconds as if seeing a ghost. Then her legs failed and she leaned against the doorframe, beginning to cry. My daughter came back. Daughter? Mahira felt a chill down her spine. I think there's a mistake. I came to ask about Ayan. Ayan, the old woman repeated, wiping her tears. Your son. The world stopped. Literally stopped. Mahira couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what she had just heard. Her son? No, it's not possible. The older woman looked her in the eyes and said the words that changed everything. You are his mother, and I am your mother-in-law. Mahira felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. The old lady in front of her wasn't a stranger. She was Nasreen Bibi, Rashid's mother, her first husband, the woman who had cared for her during pregnancy, who had held her hand during childbirth, who had cried with her on the day they were forced to separate forever. Nasreen Amma, Mahira whispered, using the respectful term she had always used to address her mother-in-law. Yes, child, it's me. Tears flowed freely down the wrinkled face. 8 years waiting for this day. 8 years praying for Allah to bring you back to your son. Mahira fell to her knees right there at the shack entrance, sobbing uncontrollably. Ayan is your son, your boy you were forced to leave when you remarried. The memories returned like an avalanche. Rashid, her first husband, dead in a work accident when Ayan was only 6 months old. The pressure from her family to remarry. Her father's harsh words. No decent man will want you with another man's child. You have to choose, the boy or your future. The unbearable pain of leaving her baby in Nasreen Ammar's arms, promising she would return for him when she was more established. The promise she broke when she fell in love with Salman and built a new life, burying the past so deep she almost convinced herself it never happened. Is he okay? Is Ayan okay? Mahira asked between sobs. Nasreen Ammar helped her stand and led her inside the small shack. It was simple but clean, with photos of Rashid on the walls and some of Ayan's drawings hung with pride. He's in the hospital, child. Very hurt. The doctors say he needs expensive surgery we can't afford. How much? How much does the surgery cost? 2 lakh rupees. For us it might as well be 2 crore. It's a lot of money. Mahira opened her purse immediately. I have it. I'll pay for the surgery. Child. Nasreen Ammar held her hands. You have a new life now. You don't need to get involved. He's my son. Mahira shouted, surprising herself with the intensity of her voice. He's my son, and I abandoned him. I won't abandon him again. The old lady smiled through tears. I always knew you would return. Ayan always asked about his mother, and I said, she'll come back when Allah wills it. He draws you, you know. He draws me. Nasreen Ammar brought an old shoebox full of drawings. There were dozens of them. A young woman, always crying, always with arms extended as if wanting to embrace someone. In some drawings, the woman was in a beautiful car. In others, she wore elegant clothes. But in all, without exception, she was crying. How does he know what I look like? I showed him your photos when he was little, and he has dreams. Dreams about you. He says he sees you always sad, always looking for him. Mahira held the drawings against her chest. Does he hate me? He loves you, child. He asks about you every day. He says someday he'll get rich and look for the sad mother who appears in his dreams. At that moment, Mahira knew there would be no turning back. No matter what happened to her marriage, her social life, her reputation, Ayan was her son and she wouldn't lose him again. Take me to him. Now. Karachi's civil hospital was a place Mahira had never set foot in. Accustomed to luxurious private clinics, she was shocked by the overcrowding, dirty corridors and the smell of cheap disinfectant mixed with human despair. Nasreen Ammar guided her through narrow corridors to the pediatric ICU. Through a small window, Mahira saw a small bed where a boy lay connected to machines. Her heart stopped. It was Ayan, but not the smiling Ayan she knew. He was pale, motionless, with a tube down his throat and machines beeping around him. Bandages covered his head and his left arm was in a cast. My boy, she whispered, pressing her hand against the glass. The doctors say he needs surgery today, Nasreen Ammar explained. There's pressure on the brain. If they don't operate in the next few hours, she didn't need to finish the sentence. Mahira was already running to the information desk. I want to pay for the surgery of the boy Ayan Khan, she told the nurse. Are you a relative? Mahira hesitated for just a second. I'm the mother. The nurse looked at her expensive clothes, then at Nasreen Ammar with her simple clothes, clearly confused. I need to see documents. I don't have documents here, but I can pay cash, right now. Without family documentation, I can't. He's my son, Mahira screamed, completely losing the composure she had maintained for 8 years. I'm his mother, and he's dying. Her scream echoed through the corridor, making dozens of people look. Among them, a familiar figure appeared running. Salman, her husband, who had arrived at the hospital looking for her after their building security, said he saw her leaving desperately in the morning and not returning. Mahira, what are you doing here? I've been looking for you everywhere. She turned to him, her face stained with tears, eyes red and swollen. Salman, I can explain. But at that moment, Nasreen Amma approached and said loud enough for everyone to hear, Sir, your wife came to see her son. Our Ayan is very bad. The silence that followed was deafening. Salman stood paralyzed, looking from Mahira to the old woman, trying to process what he had just heard. Son, he repeated slowly. What son? Mahira closed her eyes, knowing there was no turning back. Salman, I had a son from my first marriage. You told me you never had children. I was forced to. I had to choose between him and marrying you. My family said you would never accept me if you knew. People around began to whisper, recognizing the family drama unfolding before them. Salman ran his hands through his hair, clearly in shock. 8 years, Mahira. 8 years of lies. I wanted to tell you, but you preferred to pretend he didn't exist. Salman's voice rose, attracting even more attention. While you lived in my house, wearing my jewelry, spending my money, your son was here in this misery. Each word was like a slap. Mahira knew he was right. She knew there was no excuse for what she had done. But at that moment, she could only think of one thing. He's dying, Salman. My boy is dying and needs surgery now. Salman looked through the ICU window and saw Ayan for the first time. His expression changed slightly, from anger to something more complex, more human. He looks like you, he said quietly. Will you help me? Salman remained silent for long seconds that seemed like hours. Finally, he sighed heavily and addressed the nurse. Do the surgery. I'll pay. The surgery lasted 6 hours. Mahira, Nasreen Amma and Salman waited in the waiting room in tense, heavy silence. From time to time, nurses came to give vague updates. Still operating? Going well so far? Still going to take time. During those interminable hours, Nasreen Amma told Salman the whole story. How Mahira had been a loving daughter-in-law, how she had cared for Rashid during his illness, how she had been a dedicated mother in Ayan's first 6 months of life. She didn't want to leave the boy, sir, Nasreen Amma explained, tears rolling, but her family said no man would marry a widow with a child. They said it was better for everyone if she started over. Salman listened in silence, processing each word. Mahira sat in the corner, hugging her knees, lost in her own thoughts and guilt. Why didn't you ever tell me? Salman finally asked Mahira. Because I was afraid, she whispered. Afraid you would leave me, afraid you would judge me, afraid of reliving that pain. Did you think I was that cruel? Mahira looked him in the eyes for the first time in hours. No, I thought I was that weak, that I couldn't live with the shame of my past being exposed. Before Salman could respond, the doctor came out of the surgical center, still wearing surgical equipment. Everyone stood up immediately. The surgery was successful, he announced, and Mahira collapsed in tears of relief. We managed to relieve the pressure on the brain. The boy is strong, but he'll need a lot of time to recover completely. Will he be okay? Nasreen Amma asked. If there are no complications, yes, but you should prepare for a long recovery. He may have lost some memories, may need to relearn some basic things. Can I see him? Mahira asked. Not yet. He's in recovery, maybe tomorrow morning. When the doctor left, the trio was again in silence. It was Salman who broke the silence. We need to talk, all 3 of us. The next morning, Mahira was at the hospital before sunrise. She had slept only 2 hours, her mind too occupied with worries and possibilities to allow deep sleep. When doctors finally allowed visits, she was the first to enter the room. Ayan was conscious but confused, looking around with eyes still clouded by medication. Ayan, she whispered, approaching the bed. He slowly turned his head toward the voice. For a moment, he showed no recognition. Then slowly a weak smile appeared on his lips. Sister, you came to see me. Of course I came. Mahira held his small hand, trying not to cry. How are you feeling? My head hurts. And I can't remember some things. He frowned, concentrating. I was running after a ball and then I don't remember anything else. You had an accident, son, but now you're fine. You'll be fine. Ayan tried to sit up, but Mahira helped him settle better on the pillows. Is my nanny okay? Yes, she's coming to see you soon. They remained silent for a few minutes, Ayaan observing Mahira's face with curiosity. Then he said something that made her tremble. Sister, you have eyes just like the woman in my dreams. What woman? The woman who's always crying. My nanny says it's my mother. He paused. You look a lot like her. Mahira felt this was the moment. There wouldn't be another moment better, more natural, more right. Ayaan, she began, her voice trembling. What if I tell you that you're right? What if I tell you that the woman in your dreams is me? The boy looked at her for long seconds, processing the words. Sister, I don't understand. Ayaan, I am your mother. The silence that followed was interrupted only by the beeping of machines. Ayaan continued looking at her, his young mind trying to process such big information. You are my mother. Yes, son, I am. But why did you leave me? The question she knew would come, but for which she had never found a satisfactory answer. How to explain to a 10-year-old child the social pressures, family expectations, fear of judgment? Because I was young and scared. Because people told me it would be better for you if I left. Because I made the wrong choice. You didn't want me? I wanted you more than anything in the world. That's why it hurt so much to stay away. That's why I came back. Ayaan was quiet for a long time, absorbing everything. Then he extended his little hand toward Mahira's face. Is that why you always bought so many things from me? Because you knew? No, son, I didn't know. I just felt you were special, that there was something different about you. She held his hand against her face. My heart recognized you before my mind did. And now, will you stay with me now? If you want, yes, forever. Ayaan smiled, the first true smile since the accident. I always knew you would come back. My nanny said mothers always return when their children need them most. At that moment, Nasreen Amma entered the room, followed by Salman. Ayaan was curious about the unknown man. Ayaan, this is Salman. He is my husband. Your husband? Ayaan looked from one to the other. Does that mean he's like my stepfather? Salman approached the bed. He had spent the entire night thinking and had reached a decision. If you want, Ayaan, if you'll accept me, I would very much like to be your family. Are you rich? Ayaan asked with typical childhood honesty. Salman laughed, the first time he had laughed since yesterday's discovery. Yes, I am. Does that mean my mother and my nanny won't need to worry about money anymore? Never again. Ayaan nodded seriously, as if making an important decision. Then it's okay. You can be my family. And so, in a hospital room smelling of disinfectant and machine noise, an unlikely family began to form. The following weeks were an emotional roller coaster for everyone involved. Ayaan stayed in the hospital for 10 more days, during which Mahira practically lived there. Salman brought clothes, food, and everything she needed, but maintained respectful distance, still processing the new reality. Nasreen Amma, initially hesitant to accept Salman's generosity, gradually began to trust him when she saw his genuine dedication to Ayaan's well-being. When Ayaan finally was discharged, the practical question arose: where would he live? Salman and Mahira's house had spare rooms, but the transition from a slum shack to a mansion in the Noble district wouldn't be simple. He might get scared, Mahira expressed her concerns to Salman. Everything will be so different from what he knows. Then let's make the transition easier. His grandmother can come too, at least initially. You would do that? Mahira, I spent weeks thinking about all this. About us, about what family means, about forgiveness. He paused. I love you, I love the woman you are, not just the edited version you showed me. And if Ayaan is part of who you are, then he's part of our life. On the day they brought Ayaan home, he was speechless at the mansion's door. Mum, this house is yours? Ours, Mahira corrected. This house is ours. Showing Ayaan his new room was one of the most exciting moments of Mahira's life. Salman had everything decorated with art themes. Small easels, paints, drawing paper, posters of famous artists. All this is mine, Ayaan asked, carefully touching each item. All yours, son. That night, during dinner, Ayaan asked a question that caught everyone by surprise. Mom, why didn't you look for me before? Why did you wait until I almost died? The question hit Mahira like lightning. How to explain emotional cowardice to a child? How to admit she had chosen the comfort of denial over the courage of truth? Because I was scared, Ayaan. Scared of not being good enough for you after so long away. But you're the best mother in the world, he said with simplicity. Nanny always said you were. Salman observed the interaction with a mixture of admiration and sadness. Admiration for Ayaan's capacity for forgiveness, sadness for the lost opportunities. But not everything was rosy. Hayan had nightmares about the accident. Sometimes he woke up crying, calling for Nasreen Amma. There were days when he asked to return to the slum, saying he felt strange in the big house. Maybe it's too early, Mahira said to Salman after a particularly difficult night. Maybe he's not ready for so much change. Or maybe he just needs time. Big changes are always scary. The most difficult moment came 3 weeks later, when Ayan asked, "Mom, will you leave me again if I do something wrong?" The question broke Mahira's heart. "Never, son. Never again. I promise." "You promised before, too," he said quietly. It was true. She had promised before, when he was a baby, that she would come back for him, and she had broken that promise. "You're right," she admitted. "I broke my promise before, but now I'm older, stronger. And now I know there's nothing more important than being with you." "Not even Uncle Salman?" Mahira looked at Salman, who was listening from the doorway. He nodded slightly, encouraging her to be honest. "Ayan, I love Salman, but you are my son. If I had to choose," she paused, "I would choose you, always." It was the first time Ayan cried since discovering she was his mother, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of relief. 2 months after the accident, life had found a new rhythm. Ayan was attending a private school, his first experience with structured formal education. Initially intimidated by classmates from wealthy families, he gradually found his place through his artistic talent. Nasreen Amma had moved to an annex at the back of the house, independent enough to maintain her dignity, close enough to continue being part of Ayan's daily life. "Sir," she said to Salman one day, "you are a better man than I imagined. Allah will reward you for your kindness." "Nasreen Amma, I'm the lucky one here. Ayan brought joy to our house in a way I didn't expect." It was true. Ayan's presence had completely changed the house's dynamics. His laughter echoed through the corridors, his drawings decorated the walls, his curious questions about everything kept everyone constantly engaged. But there were still tensions. Mahira and Salman were rebuilding their marriage on completely new foundations. Some nights they talked until late about the future. Other nights, the weight of the past kept them in uncomfortable silence. "Do you regret it?" Mahira asked one night. "What?" "Staying with me, accepting all this." Salman thought carefully before responding. "I regret that you didn't trust me before, but I don't regret where we are now. Even knowing our life will never be like before. Mahira, our life before was beautiful on the surface, but something was missing. You were always a little sad, a little distant. Now I know why. And now? Now, you're complete. And that makes me happy, even if it's complicated." The real test came when the first social events began to happen. Mahira and Salman's social circle was curious about the nephew who had suddenly appeared in their lives. "He's my son from my first marriage," Mahira explained, keeping the story simple. Technically, it wasn't a lie, it just omitted details about the abandonment. Some people accepted the explanation without questions. Others asked more direct questions that Mahira learned to navigate with diplomacy. The moment of greatest tension came when Mahira's parents decided to visit, 5 months after the reunion. They had heard rumors about Ayan through mutual acquaintances and came to clarify the situation. "Mahira," her father said, barely disguising his irritation, "what's this story about you bringing that boy home?" "That boy is my son, Papa, your grandson. We thought this problem had been resolved long ago." "Problem?" Ayan was listening from the stairs, and his words hit everyone in the room. "Am I a problem?" The silence that followed was tense. Mahira immediately stood up and went to Ayan. "You're not a problem, son, never were. You're the most precious thing in my life." Her father was visibly uncomfortable. "Mahira, we just think that you thought you could erase my son from existence," she interrupted, her voice growing in intensity. "You forced me to choose between him and my happiness, but now I realize I could never be happy without him." "And what does Salman think about all this?" her mother asked. Salman, who had been quiet until then, stood up. "I think Ayan is an extraordinary boy who brings joy to our house, and I think any grandfather who can't see that is missing an incredible opportunity." The visit ended badly, with Mahira's parents leaving in disapproval, but for the first time in her life, Mahira felt completely at peace with her choices. "Don't you mind that they're angry?" Ayan asked later. "No, son, because now I know what my priority is. It's you. It's our family." 1 year after the accident that changed everything, Mahira was organizing Ayan's first official birthday party in his new life. It would be his 11th birthday, but the first they would celebrate together since he was a baby. The house was decorated with his drawings, which had evolved tremendously since he began having proper art classes. Nasreen Amma was in the kitchen preparing his favorite dishes. Salman was setting up the new easel he had bought as a gift, and Mahira was organizing the final details. "Mom," Ayan called her, "can I invite my friends from the slum too?" "Of course, son. This is your house, your party. Even though they're poor and different from my school friends?" Mahira stopped what she was doing and looked him in the eyes. "Ayan, where you come from doesn't matter. What matters is who you are. And your friends will always be welcome here." The party was an interesting success. Children from two completely different worlds playing together, sharing cake and laughter. Ayan's wealthy friends were fascinated by the slum boy's stories, while his old friends were impressed by the toys and pool. "Brother," Hassan, the boy who had guided Mahira to the slum, said to Ayan, "You've changed a lot." "How so?" "You're bigger, better dressed, but you're still the same, Ayan." It was true. Despite all the external changes, Ayan maintained his natural kindness, his curiosity about the world, his ability to make friends easily. During the party, Mahira observed Salman playing with the children in the pool, having as much fun as they were. Nasreen Amma telling stories to a group of fascinated boys. Ayan easily transitioning between his two worlds, comfortable in both. "You did the right thing," a voice said behind her. It was Dr. Khalid, the doctor who had operated on Ayan. "Dr. Khalid, what a surprise to see you here. Ayan invited me personally, said I saved his life and wanted to show me how happy he was." The doctor smiled. "You know, I see many families at the hospital, many complicated situations, but I rarely see someone take responsibility for past mistakes the way you did. I just did what any mother should do." "No, Mahira, you did what a brave mother would do. There's a difference." Later, when all the guests had gone and Ayan was sleeping, exhausted but happy, Mahira, Salman and Nasreen Amma sat in the garden to talk. "A year ago, I never would have imagined we'd be here like this," Mahira said. "Allah has his plans," Nasreen Amma observed. "Sometimes we need to go through difficulties to find our true happiness." "Do you think Ayan has completely forgiven us?" Salman asked. "I think children forgive more easily than adults," Mahira replied. "But I also think forgiveness is a continuous process. Every day I have to prove I deserve to be his mother. And how do you feel about that?" "Grateful. Grateful for a second chance. Grateful that he's so resilient. Grateful that you stayed with me through all this." Salman held her hand. "Mahira, do you know what I learned this year?" "What?" "That family isn't just about blood or marriage. It's about choice. Every day, I choose to be Ayan's father. Every day you choose to be honest with me. Every day we choose to make this family work." Nasreen Amma nodded approvingly. "That is wisdom, sir." The next morning, Ayan woke up early and ran to Mahira and Salman's room, something he still did when he was particularly happy or anxious. "Mom, I dreamed about you again." "Oh? And how was the dream this time?" "This time you weren't crying. You were smiling, and you were teaching me to draw." Mahira smiled, tears welling up, but they were tears of happiness. "And do you want to learn?" "Yes, I want to draw our family, our complete family." While they prepared breakfast together, Salman making eggs, Ayan helping Nasreen Amma with parathas, Mahira preparing tea, everyone understood they had found something precious. No luxury in the world can erase the consequences of a hidden secret. Mahira had built a perfect life on the surface, but it was founded on a lie that corroded her from within. It took almost losing her son forever for her to understand that truth, however painful initially, is always liberating. True love, whether maternal, conjugal or familial, cannot exist fully in the presence of lies. But when we choose courage over fear, honesty over convenience, we discover that people who truly love us will accept us with our flaws and our past. Ayan taught everyone that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, but choosing to build something new on the ruins of what was broken. Salman showed that true love sometimes means embracing responsibilities we didn't ask for, but that give meaning to our lives. And Mahira learned that being a mother isn't about being perfect. It's about being present, being honest, and never stopping trying. Share this story in your groups and social networks. Let more people learn that truth always comes to light, and that life's greatest treasure isn't status or money, but the family we build with love, honesty, and courage. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment telling us, have you ever had to make a difficult decision between what was convenient and what was right? How was your experience? And remember, it's never too late to correct past mistakes. It's never too late to choose love over fear. It's never too late to be who you should have been from the beginning, because in the end, it's not lies that protect us. It's the courage to live our truth that sets us free.